Welcome to the Seth Gamble podcast. This show is to equip you with real-world tactics that improve your leadership skills, build your wealth, and cause you to leave a multi-generational impact on your world. My name is Seth Gamble. I'm your host, and I'm very excited about today's episode. This is episode 26, Alissa Gamble, and this is the first. And what we're going to do as a routine, maybe every month or so, is I want to bring on a founder, and we put together a pretty clean criteria for y'all here, because what I recognize and what I've heard from a lot of the folks that listen to this show is the biggest part of our audience, biggest segment of our audience are business owners, and they're business owners that are working towards scaling, that are sometimes hitting walls, and they tend to want to learn some of these skills and have some breakthroughs somewhere on their way towards $1 million in revenue, $2 million in revenue. So I'm going to bring on founders who have broken through at least $1 million in top line revenue for their business. And I think what you're going to hear through their story is a lot of the same things that you're going through. And my goal through these conversations is a couple of things. Number one, for you to get hope that, hey, you know what, this person may be further out than I am, and they may have achieved some things that I look to achieve. And yet their start sounds a lot like what maybe I'm going through now, or some of their rough patches. So if they can do it, I can do it too. I want you to hear that. And I want you to hear what the real secrets to success are, and the lack of silver bullets probably inside of those, and how important perseverance is, and just be motivated by their story. And then hopefully give you the opportunity to connect with them ongoing. So today I'm very excited. Our very first founder, a great friend of mine and business partner, Alissa Gamble. So welcome, Alissa. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing your story with us. I know you've got a really, really great story of how you've built your business and your wealth even that you're on track for.
Thank you. It's been a journey for sure.
Amen to that. So, so tell us about your world right now. Like, bring us to the present. Like, where are you at in your business? How big is your business? You are in the real estate business, and what are some of your metrics? What does your investment portfolio look like? Your family, your hobbies? What is life like now for you?
Yeah, so I am a wife and mother. I have a 12-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter. I am born and raised here in Boise, Idaho. And my business looks like I'm in real estate, is kind of my main industry. And then I have ancillary businesses outside of that as well. And I'm an investor and coach. So my current business looks like we have 12 full producing active agents. I have 4 staff members directly servicing our location. And actually today we're going to cross the $1 million threshold in revenue.
Wow.
So,
congratulations. So, and we're recording this June 27th. So we're right in the middle of the year, and you're at $1 million. You're going to cross $1 million in revenue today.
Yeah.
Woo! All right. Congratulations. So then you're on pace for $2 million supposedly this year, if not more, because you may be moving,
growth. Yeah. Trajectory. Yeah. For sure.
Wow. All right. How do you balance all of that?
How do I balance it? Time blocking. That would be the big deal. Is really I play hard, and then I work hard so that I can play hard, and everything is really time blocked in my calendar. I've become over the years a master at really fitting as much in as possible, and really just figuring out what is my top 20% that can make me most effective on the mission.
Love it. And then I know, and I want to kind of go back to the chronology. One other thing, what does your investment world look like now? I know that just a couple of years ago, you really got intentional on that. You've made some good progress in that category.
Yeah, I started, my first investment property was I moved from my primary home to another primary home, and I always had the goal to own rentals, and that seemed like the first logical step. So my first property that I bought as an investment, or I guess shifted to an investment, was 2013. And currently I have 6 other doors now, so 7 total, plus I'm part of a syndication with a 101 unit syndication group.
Wow, love it. So you've got a big world, and it's growing fast.
Yeah, I mean, this year already we've purchased two, so it seems to be speeding up. With ultimately, vision right now is 30, and I'm sure when I get there, it might be like, let's go for more.
Yeah, love it. So life probably wasn't all that easy. Let's let's go back. What'd you do before like real estate? Other vocations, previous business adventures, anything fun in childhood and an entrepreneurial spirit back then that showed up?
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, I always wanted to be a horse jockey. That was my
Wow,
first love. Was I rode? We
never
owned some
heard that
horses.
answer before.
You know what? In school, it was funny as I never. There is no career for a horse jockey, so it was always something I wasn't even sure how I was going to break into. And then when I passed the 100-pound mark, when I was about 14, that kind of went to the wayside because you have to be under 100 pounds, especially if you're a female. So, and then I remember my Aunt Pam at a Christmas event or something. She told me I'd always be good at business, and that one conversation started me into kind of entrepreneurial because I knew I never wanted to be famous. I wanted to have enough money to do what I wanted to do and help others. I've come from a very entrepreneurial family, so all of my uncles and my dad own their own businesses,
Wow.
and I just wanted to follow in some of that footsteps and be my own owner of my business. So that's kind of where it started.
So
I
you grew up in that then. You grew up in a world of owning your own business. Is that what your aunt saw in you, you think, or did what do you think triggered that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the oldest kid, so and my dad passed away when I was very young, between the age of 2 or 3, and my dad now adopted me when he married my mom, and so I was kind of adopted into that family, and I was the only girl of all the kids. I've got 3 uncles, and so there was also a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, I think, to prove myself to all the boys in
Mm.
the family. So I always was playing tackle football or beating up the boys, and was always very competitive. And yeah, I think it always was surrounded with me to kind of create something from within the family.
So that really must have shaped you, because it's interesting, right? Like not a lot of children grow up with the idea of like owning your own business, right? A lot of families, it's just not a thing. It's go to school, get a job, get a good job.
Yeah, and I think it was still foggy back then because I went to college and I was going to do international business. So I already had about 6 years in under my belt of French. So I pursued a French degree, and that's ultimately what I got as a bachelor, was a Bachelor of Fine Arts in French. Not very helpful in the landlocked state of Idaho. Um, and I took Spanish and was also going to take Japanese, and do. I wanted to be like an ambassador, and kind of work international business. So I got a minor in business, and it wasn't until it was '01 when kind of we had 9/11 and the market and economy shifted. I got laid off from a state job, and that's what got me into real estate.
What were you doing? What were you doing for the state?
I worked at the Department of Health and Welfare. So, and I always was promoted in every job I had. Right out of high school, I had office jobs, administrative or office jobs, and I was always promoted pretty quickly. Um, Typically was a leader of a pod or a group.
Mm.
I was one of the youngest people in the Department of Health and Welfare. I was part of the only money maker in the state department, which was called the Health Insurance Premium Program. We paid people's premiums to that had health issues, so it saved the state money. And I ran the application process and then the payroll through that.
Oh wow. All right, so very different. And then so you get laid off from the state and
Yeah, I got laid off. I actually, the interim, I got a job at a radiology firm. So we did MRIs, CTs, ultrasounds, and again, within about a year, I was running the admin department there,
Mhm.
and really being the bridge between the back and the front. And there, I had a life lesson. I violated HIPAA, and I was actually fired. That was the one and only job I was fired from, and that is what actually catapulted me into real estate.
All right, don't mess with HIPAA. All right, so then what?
Oh.
So what causes you to go into real estate? Is it because of your dad was doing real estate, or like is that was that the transition?
Yeah, I was going to actually work for my cousin's lawn care business. He runs a pretty large lawn care business, and I was going to be his office manager. And he didn't have a space. His person was retiring, but not for 6 months. And so I needed another part time job. So I called my dad, who had been a real estate agent for 35 years, I think, at the time, and just said I would be a great assistant. Who do you know in your office that might need an assistant for the next 6 or 8 months? And he said, "Well, I'm not hiring you." And I really was like, I actually didn't ask for you to hire me. I was looking for a reference. And come to find out, just the timing of everything is he had put an ad for an assistant that morning
Oh
out.
wow.
And so, after he brought that conversation home to my mom, and she said, "Why wouldn't you consider looking at Alissa?" And so I had an interview the next day and hired.
All right.
And
So did
so
you
I
interview with
started
him?
off as his assistant.
All right. So then, so you, yeah, so you're kind of had this administrative or office manager kind of background, right?
Hmm.
Was that the vision? Like, was it? Did you have an idea of like, oh, I want to run one of these things one day, or was that not there yet? Was it? I'm looking for work.
No, no. I mean, I looking back now, I can't even imagine if I was the leader of an admin department because I don't have the detail
Yeah.
skills. Naturally, I just forced it, and I knew what whatever I was going to do, I was going to do at the highest level. At one point, I was going to run a transactional coordination business, which would have been a nightmare looking back. But no, I just really wanted to be the best. And what happened also naturally is my dad was getting into leadership at his brokerage at the time. And so I was supporting his real estate business, but also supporting the brokerage and education and development. So the first couple years of working for him, he ran the new agent training program for the brokerage. And so I went through that probably 12 different times being the administrator of it. And through that is when I was like, okay, if these guys can do it, and I was watching people kind of bumble through things, if they can do it and be successful, I know I can rock this out. And that's where it really started to be like, okay, I can be an agent. But it really, even then, even at that brokerage, there were no teams, there were no big businesses. It was like if I could just do 25 or 20, 25 to 30 deals a year, that would be like successful.
Take me back there because that's a pretty big transition, a pretty big leap for some folks. Like I'm guessing you're on a salary or a stable income, and what you're saying is like going all commission at some level. Like, and you hadn't done that before, right? What's going through your head at that time, and how scary is that, or was it just not a big deal?
Well, no. I mean, I would tell you, Seth, I think it was a forced. So I assisted Ron, my dad, for a while. And then what happened is I remember 2008. So my house burnt down in July of 2008. I got married in September of 2008. And 2 days after I got married, September 15th, 2008 happened, which was the crash of the stock market. And
Wow.
I remember my dad texting me that when you come back from your honeymoon, everything has changed.
Wow.
And he was right. I mean, it had already started kind of the downhill slope, but the bottom fell out that Monday, September 15th. And by November, I found out I was pregnant. And then the next week, my dad said, I can no longer support you salary. So sink or
Wow.
swim, go find another job, but you are off my salary at the end of the year. And he told me that right before Thanksgiving of 2008. So I had about a month and a half to pull up my britches, and I remember being scared shitless. I don't know if you can say that on here, but I did. Um, is like I just wasn't sure what was going to happen. Actually applied for unemployment for the first month because I wasn't sure what we were going to do. I mean, I was living paycheck to paycheck back there. Back then, I had roommates. I think it was 24,
Wow.
and I just said, "Well, let's give it a shot. I think I can do this, and I guess I better put my actions where my thoughts are, and let's get to it."
And this is see all while all this is going on and the market's crashing too, and you're going into that.
And I really think though I was blissfully unaware of that. Like, I mean, I knew something had happened in the market, but I hadn't sold real estate really before that. So all I saw was all these other agents not be very skillful and still sell houses. And so I just figured if I can just find the clients, I can sell houses no matter. I just really didn't consider the market at that time.
So you're blissfully unaware. Did you have naysayers? Were family members saying you're crazy? Like why are you going into that? Can you just find another job? And
Yeah, I mean, I would tell you my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, was really supportive. So that was very helpful. That he was like, I know you can do this. Go get it. Um, my dad said I mean I had started in June of 08 really in real estate, and I had been pretty successful just those first 6 months. I'd
mm,
gotten a listing my first week. I wrote up an offer off just a random sign call my first week. And so I'd had some success. So I had some confidence behind that. And then I was just somebody who went and looked under every rock. I mean, I talked to everybody about it. I had a couple family members say, "We'll see." Your first year, that's probably lucky, and you had some family members, and the rubber's going to meet the road. Um, and I was pregnant with my first kid as well, so there was also a determination of that I'm going to make this work before I go on maternity leave.
so some people, they struggle just to get launched, right? There's a whole bunch of people that one day I want to own my own business, and for you, you didn't really have time to think about that. You just had to go. Like, you had no other choice.
Yeah,
And it's
and
amazing
I
how
would
a
tell
lot
you,
of stories are born like kind of out of that fire, right?
and we were at that time. Then at this point, Ron was at his own brokerage, and it was just me and him, kind of out of his house. And I remember we went to a meeting with a broker, a team leader, and I went to a business planning clinic. I think it was like a weird time of year, like February or something, and I'd never been to anything like that. And that gave me real clarity on what I had to do. I'd never seen a business broken down, what we call the economic model, to like this is how many people I just have to talk to. And it seemed to me simple, not easy, but simple, where just talk to this many people and you'll be able to have this success, which is the top line revenue.
So that's a key ingredient for folks to hear, right? Is so early on you got a legitimate plan. There's a lot of entrepreneurs I talk to that they believe the business plan is kind of the idea. Like I want to sell this or I want to do this, and there's a big need for this in the market. But what you did, that economic model is essentially like how much money do you want to make, and then you work it all the way back to like, okay, talk to X number of people, and this conversion rate ballpark is going to lead to this many contracts, right? So it's that level of
Yeah, and
clarity.
I was very forceful in getting in with smarter people than me. So I remember I was Ron's daughter. He was the one who had all the production and the longevity in the career. I was like a nobody, and yet when we came on to Keller Williams back then, and I forced myself into the top mastermind group, and I
How'd you
didn't
do
even.
that?
I just said I'm going to be in this group. I don't want to be in that one over there. You put me in that one over there. I want to be in this one. And I don't know if I just my cute smile or what the team leader was like, oh,
So you
okay.
show up into um, business mastermind of people who are already at a higher level.
Yeah. And I wanted to meet with the top instead of just going to like the business coach. I went to the team leader and said, I want to be coached by you. And for whatever reason, she saw the potential or my drive, or I don't know, and she let me in. And that was probably a huge ingredient to my initial success because I was around people already doing it, and started picking up on what they were doing and then just copying them. I
Perfect.
remember
That's
doing a lot
exactly why we're
of
doing these founder series. Exactly that. It's to expose people to something that's already there. What, so first couple of years, what kind of numbers were you hitting? Like, what were some of the early milestones or victories that you remember?
Yeah, I mean, early on, hitting $100,000 was a big marker for me, and that happened in 2010. So really, it took me a couple years to get to there, but that was a big marker. I think a lot of us want to make $100,000, and so when I hit that, I remember. And then in 2010, I also was on another team briefly for about 8 months. It was the best experience looking back because I learned about everything not to do on a team. We changed our name a whole bunch. We changed our email. We didn't have admin or administrative support. We didn't have a database. And so I learned a lot of the things that when I first started my team that I said I'm going to do differently. Um, and then I mean, what early success was that I doubled my business every year. I was doubling not, the units that we were doing in real estate, but also the GCI, the revenue as well.
You're going
So
100 to 200 to 400, and you're growing at that rate. What what'd you focus on in those early days? Like, take me back to going from 100 to 200, 200 to 400. That's incredible growth. Like, what do you focus on?
yeah, so in 2010, late 2010, I think I got an assistant, or it was earlier on in the year I got an assistant. That was huge because again at that point I was realizing that although I could do admin work, I didn't love it, and so the things that you need in the basis foundation of your business I wasn't doing. So like a CRM, a contact database management system, I would never do that. When I hired this assistant, I started at $10 an hour for 10 hours a week, and that's what I had her do. And within a month or two, I got several deals from touching my database and past clients. And so I hired her a little bit more till she was all the way up to 40 hours a week,
So that's
which just to
so
get.
I want to hit that real quick because that's another spot where people get in the early. This is probably prior to scale. It is prior to scale, but it's kind of like the stage before where some people burn a lot of time or years or exhaustion and energy. Right? Is I don't really think I can afford somebody. I need to get out of the weeds and do a higher dollar producing activity, so to speak. And did your mind play tricks on you? I've watched people struggle with that. Like, I don't have enough money to hire the person. I can't really afford the person, but I really need the person. I get exhausted doing this data entry work, or I'm staying up late, catching up.
Yeah, and I would tell you, it was Erica Hill that sat down with me. I have the benefit, I think, of a lack of fear. Yeah, I was fearful, but I mean, she put it down when you drill it down, and I can see like, okay, it's not that bad. I was like, she said, what's $100 a week? That's $400 a month, and I could afford that. Not a whole bunch of those without pay, but I
Right.
said, oh, what do I got to lose? Let's try it because I'm not doing my database. There was like 4 months of me struggling, and I just would never do it. So I went to lunch with Erica Hill, which is one of my mentors, and she just broke it down. I think she's very similar to me as well, a little fearless,
Yeah.
and then what I think maybe my superpower is that I'm really only good at a few things, and I figured that out pretty early on. And so I leverage way earlier than most in my industry does because I just said I'm not going to do that. So let's get somebody to do that so I can stay in my strength zone, which is like in front of people and helping advise them, making a move.
That's beautiful. So one of your secrets to breaking through is like you're not just the pretty fearless part. I mean, we hear it again. Here you got another mentor. I know Erica Hill's very wealthy, successful, incredibly successful individual, right? Super intelligent business person. So here you have another person in your life with wisdom saying, here's the path. And then you have a natural bend towards hiring earlier. And I think people need to hear that because I don't think you go from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8 without hiring and hiring early. Um,
No, that definitely helped me for sure. Get that. And then I fell into a buyer's agent as well. So that also, I wasn't looking to hire, but a young, talented individual came in my life. She was dating my cousin, kind of, and saw me doing more business than her. And when she left her position, she called me and said, "I want to come work with you," and that was the trajectory changer to everything.
so now
Bringing
you have
her on.
somebody doing some of the sales for you that takes up more minutes, and you focus on the higher level sales that is more money for less minutes.
Yeah, it switched me from being an agent that does everything to only a listing agent. Because that was one of the things that I learned from the previous team is I wouldn't get all the leads for the buyers, even though I was a buyer's agent, and it was very fascinating because I was there ready, waiting, and I wouldn't get the leads. So I gave her everything. I even gave
Mm.
her my mother-in-law, and I like my mother-in-law. So like I gave her everything, which then left me to, if I didn't have buyers, what do I do? And I wasn't sure how
Yeah.
to go get listings, but that's the only thing that shifted because from 2011 to 2012, I went from 8 listings in 2011 to 43 the
Wow.
next year,
So
and
what do
it
you
was
say
purely
to
because I didn't.
so you grow by letting things go? Like what do you say to the control freak or the I don't know if can let that go for put it in somebody else's hands? What if the quality's not there? What do you say to that
What do
person?
I say to that is, I mean, perfect is great and done is better. And ultimately, look longer vision is can you do what you're wanting to do long term by holding on to those things? And I mean, the answer for me was no. And I thought I loved buyers too. I loved, I mean, I still occasionally do like a good buyer, but realized that long term was not going to help me get to where I wanted to go.
So